Hi, my name is John Romaniello. I am a fitness professional and New York Times best-selling author, and I help people look great naked.
You do training for people.
Yep.
Now, this is a super competitive industry. Basically, anyone off the street can be a trainer.
It's not difficult now. The barrier of entry has been lowered.
Right, very low. Okay, but you have differentiated yourself. You have trained celebrities. You have a thriving online business. I want to talk about how did you first start off as a trainer? How did you get those clients from day one? And then now you're working with a very different set of clients. Let's talk about that progression.
So when I first began, I was very fortunate to get a job, like many trainers do early on. I was just working at the front desk of the gym where I worked out. You know, I needed another job. I was like still in college at the time, and I think I was working at the Gap, which is like the worst thing you can do in your life. And so I became a trainer. And the way that I got my clients initially is the way that most trainers start out. You're just there and you have a better body than the client and they assume you know what you're talking about, even if you don't. That's the problem, right? The barrier of entry is ultimately like, have a good body and pass a certification course. So I was really aware of that even early on, and I decided to make my education part of what I was doing. So I was really intent on reading as much as I could, but how do you portray that to the client? And what I hit upon was like, I'll just find new markers of credibility, which at the time, the easiest way to seem more credible and to get more clients was to be published. That's what made sense to me. So I got my first article published on what is now tnation.com, bodybuilding magazine called Testosterone, when I was 20. And that was huge for me because I was always a writer. You know, that was because there was this nerdy kid who liked to write like science fiction and fantasy stories. And so if it wasn't fitness, it would have been something else. But I was able to take this love of writing and write about fitness. My first article was called Booty Call. It was a glute training article. And the reason that it was a glute training article, and I think this is sort of important, maybe just for fitness professionals, but potentially other people. I looked at this magazine, this authority source in the space, and I read every single article they had ever published. And they had at that point, 20 articles on chest training, 15 articles on leg training, but they only had one article on glute training at that point. So I was like, I'll just write a glute training article, and I think they'll publish it because they more or less have a need for it.
Got it.
And so I studied the way that those articles were written. At that point, the intro was always like some snarky intro challenging the reader, and then selling the concept a little bit, and then there's like a sex joke here because it's sort of a juvenile audience, and then here's some science to get them excited about why it's going to work, and then there's the program, and then there's some snarky conclusion back to the beginning, which is more or less writing sales copy, right? And so I just studied how they were written for like a week, and then I wrote an article in exactly their voice with exactly that structure, and it was published immediately. They published it the next week. And I was like, oh, that wasn't that difficult, so I'll just do that with other magazines. So I started writing for Men's Health and Men's Fitness. And this helped me pick up clients in the gym because I would print out these articles, I would have them laminated, and I would hang them on the treadmill. So there'd be, and that's what people do, right?
What do other trainers think of that?
They were fine with it because they were just like, it's cool that this guy who works with us, got published. And the other trainers began to view me as the authority source as well. So if they had a question they could not answer for their client, they would come to me. Because he must know more than me. He writes for Men's Health. I don't write for Men's Health. And so I very quickly established myself as the authority in that gym, which led to me being an authority in the area. And then from there, it just kept growing. And so people would refer me clients that would come in, and it just seemed to work. A big thing for me this year has been getting away from skill bias. And so skill bias for me is like basically people have a tendency to gravitate towards things that they are good at, and they have a tendency to love things that they're good at and hate things that they're bad at. When people say, I hate X, I don't like doing X, what they're really saying is I'm bad at it and I hate the way being bad at it feels.